here are 5 close-call human trafficking stories. While we can't confirm if these stories are true or not, please remain respectful in the comments about their experiences. These stories are mostly anonymous. In the description, there are links you can view to support those who have been impacted by human trafficking, or to increase awareness about the topic. Please remember to stay safe and look out for those you care for. These videos have been sent in by subscribers or by friends of mine. If you would like to have your story narrated, please consider posting on my subreddit page or emailing it to me. Today, I am joined by Somber Reads. Don't forget to check him out if you enjoy his narration. I hope you enjoy these stories. 1. No boat trip. When I was 14 or 15, I had a high school frenemy. I was a dorky and awkward kid back then. I had no confidence and was happy to just have a friend. I really didn't have many friends, and so I tolerated a lot of things I shouldn't have, even if I wasn't exactly happy about it at the time. She would ask me to go to places with her that her usual friends wouldn't go. One day, she asked if I wanted to go with her and her family on a boat trip. I said I'd like to go and asked my mum if it was okay. She agreed, but said she wanted details: who would be there, where we would go, and what river we would be going on, and for contact information. My mum told me later on she didn't particularly like her much, from the first moment she saw her. I was told it was going to be a family trip with my ex-friend's family. I was told it was going to be a family trip with my ex-friend's mum and sister, along with her father and brother. As it led up to the day we would be going, I found out her mum and sister weren't going. My mum began to feel less comfortable about this, and I didn't understand what it could have been. I spoke to my ex-friend, and she said it would be her dad's friends going, rather than her family. And, in addition to that, she said she wasn't going. I figured that was the end of it. Who would expect me to go? But strangely, she still wanted me to go and spend time with her dad and his friends on a boat. Remember how old I was at the time. I barely knew her dad other than giving a polite hello now and then when I was over at her house. My ex-friend called me up and insisted that I go. I told her I didn't want to go if she wasn't going, and it was weird. I don't like going somewhere where I don't know people. I said my parents wouldn't agree to it. She told me to sneak out of my house and go anyway. I tried this before, and my dad caught me. He was pretty angry with me, and since he was a light sleeper, I didn't want to try it again. Something didn't feel right. I kept asking why she wasn't going, and she never gave me a proper answer. She told me I would be able to drink alcohol there, and while I did drink occasionally, it all didn't feel right. It turned into a fight. My mum heard me arguing with her on the phone, and later asked me what happened. I blurted it out to her, and she point-blank told me I wasn't allowed to go. I still wanted to be a good friend, and asked if I could go if my friend was there. I didn't want to cause any issues. She said no again. My ex-friend called up again, and I told her. My mum said no. Again, the guilt trips and threats started. I didn't have a lot of friends at high school, so it was pretty upsetting for me at the time. I didn't want to be a loner. Eventually, I found a good group of friends and drifted away from her. She was still kinda bitchy and looked down on me. I didn't care. I was happy. I didn't bring up what happened at the time. Many years later, I talked to a different friend about it, because I was thinking more about it lately. She told me that was a technique that human traffickers use. I asked some other friends about it and they had similar thoughts. So, that's my story. Looking back, I was a good target. And it was scary how close things had came. Not everyone is a friend. Look out for yourself. Story 2. Online date went wrong. I used to be into online dating. It gave me the confidence to flirt and it felt good. Also, I didn't have to leave the house either. I used to use OkCupid and a couple of other sites. I wasn't sure what I was looking for at the time. I didn't really know and wanted to see how things went. A lot of my friends also used the site, and some of them found their partners on there, You know the saying, that if it is too good to be true, that it probably is. I'll call him Paul. He was tall, athletic, good job, and was quite charming when we chatted. I finally had someone who would listen to what I was saying. He was funny and shared a lot of similar interests as me. Finally, we agreed to meet up in person and see if it would go further or not. We met at a local cafe, we hugged and talked. The conversation flowed so well, and he was even better in person. I didn't notice any red flags. In fact, we agreed on nearly everything, and it was by far the best date I'd ever been on. He asked if I wanted to see him again before the date had even finished, and I agreed. He asked if I wanted to go to his hotel room. I didn't want to go there. I liked him and wanted more from it. While I tried to think of a nice way to tell him, I must have shown some hesitancy on my face, because he told me it didn't matter, and he wanted to see me again anyway. Anytime there was an issue, he would be incredibly understanding, and I thought that was a good sign at the time. We went out on a couple more dates, did the deed, so to speak, and I enjoyed his company. My schedule is unpredictable. Sometimes I work a lot, and sometimes I have to rely on a side gig with my sister to get by. I told him I wanted to have a group date with some friends, and he firmly said no. Most of the time, he was willing to do whatever, but I didn't understand why he was like this. I waved it off. Everything else had been perfect, so maybe I was asking too much too soon? He was hesitant to mention anything about his personal life. Maybe the rose-tinted glasses were starting to wear off, and I was beginning to see things more clearly. I started to ask him about his life, family, and friends. That sort of thing. He kept wanting more from me. Intimately, I mean. And there were things I wasn't comfortable with. When I told him I wasn't okay with it, he would threaten to leave or would sulk. He wanted to go on a trip with him interstate, and told me he thought it would be nice. I asked where he wanted to go, and where we'd be staying, so I could tell my family and friends. He demanded that I wasn't supposed to tell them. It was like talking to another person now. He got violent, and gradually became more controlling about where I was and who I would spend my time with. I hated it. Where was the good person I met? One day, he came to my house, and the man I thought I knew was gone. He demanded that I get in the car with him. Fortunately, my neighbors came out. They're all big, strong men, and scared him off. One of them told him they would mess him up if they ever saw him again. So, what makes this a human trafficking story? I stared in horror when I saw him on the news. It turned out, he would start off pretending to be someone's boyfriend, and he had multiple ones. I was scared, but I knew I had to testify. Keep an eye out for red flags. Story 3. Tourist trip. Before everything changed, I used to go traveling quite often. I love meeting new people, and the idea of seeing the world is an exciting one. I've already been to several countries, and I would say I'm a pretty seasoned traveler. I do my best to not look like a tourist and blend in well with the crowd. When people usually speak to me, they tend to think I'm one of the locals, and I don't give any information away either. I enjoy going out, and tonight was just like any other. I knew to drink responsibly and to keep an eye on my drink, to make sure it didn't get spiked with anything. I settled in and spoke to the barman. We talked whenever I was in the country and became friends. When he had to go and tend to other customers, I sat alone and waited for my other friends to arrive. It had been years since we saw each other. You know that feeling like you feel like you're being watched? I had that. A small group of men were watching me. I looked and didn't say anything about it. I couldn't shake the strange feeling about them though. It was a busier night than usual, and so my friend, the barman, was busy with work. I was content enough to people watch and enjoy the atmosphere. A pair of them approached me and sat on either side of me. I struggled to hear them over the sound of the music and pointed to my ear, then shrugged and went back to my drink. One of them said something to me, and pointed to my ear again, and this time, my facial expression wasn't friendly. Something distracted them though. My barman friend approached me quickly and started yelling at the men. I didn't speak the language very well. I remember hearing some swearing when one of the bouncers stood nearby. The barman leaned close and said they are friends of his boss, and he was a human trafficker. So yeah, that's my story. Story 4. What did she want with me? Read by Somber Reads.
Hey, so, my story is a reminder that it isn't just women who get taken. Men can and do end up being victims. This is about my close call. I was a teenager when this happened, and I was quite young at the time. I was about 15, I think. I was an avid hiker and loved hiking. The outdoors was my favorite place to be, and it wasn't uncommon for me to go on long and late walks in the woods near my house. Where I live is thought of as a safe place to raise a family, so I guess people don't have their guard up here, and everyone knows everyone else already. I went out for a hike and came across a young woman. She looked exhausted and was ill-prepared. It's annoying when this happens, but I've been raised to help those in need, so I approached her, slowly to not scare her. I was a fair distance away from her when I asked her if she needed help. She told me she was lost and needed to find her way home. I told her the way and which trail to take. It was the quickest way back, and everything was well marked and defined. There was no way she could get lost again. She asked if I could help her, and I've been raised to be a gentleman. I decided to do it. It was the right thing to do, and I walked along the trail with her. I asked her some general questions to pass the time, and the conversation was pretty casual. She never really gave a lot of answers about herself, and it made sense. I was a stranger to her, and stranger danger and all of that. All of a sudden, she told me that she knew a better way to get out, and that didn't make any sense. I asked what she was talking about, and she said that I was going the wrong way. She pointed down a pathway that I would only go down if I had other people with me. It had a lot of cover, and people could easily hide there. I was suspicious, to say the least. She grabbed my arm and tried to pull me in that direction. I jerked my arm back and didn't really want to be involved with her. She snapped, "I'm going that way, and if anything happens to me, it's your fault," before she took off in that direction. I called out for her to stop and began to walk in that direction when I noticed other people standing there, trying to hide. I was still suspicious of her, but I didn't want her to get hurt. They didn't try to grab her or anything. My gut screamed at me, and I turned to run back to my car. Later, when I drove home, I saw them all walking together. The woman and one of the men had their arms around each other. So, yeah, men, you need to keep yourself safe too. I could have been robbed or much worse. I don't know for sure if this was just a robbery or something more serious like human trafficking or maybe even kidnapping. Just keep an eye out.
Story 5. I wanted to be a model. Hi, so I thought I would send this in. I was stupid when I did this, and want to warn everyone not to do this. I've been told before that I'm quite beautiful and should be a model. I didn't think so though. The idea of having eyes on me all the time and being scrutinized wasn't something I liked. I was at a local mall in one of the busier areas in town, just doing some casual shopping, and while I was looking at some makeup, I was approached by an incredibly bubbly woman who told me I was so beautiful. I'm pretty sure I blushed, said thanks and kept going. She didn't leave though. While I've had people approach me, this attention was just so in your face, very over the top, so I never really got that kind of attention before. I kept looking at the makeup, hoping she would take a hint to leave me alone. She asked me if I'd ever done any modeling or anything. I said no, She told me I should try it out, and she had connections to help me. She didn't know me. She asked if I had an Insta, and like many people, I have one, and while it is public, something told me that this felt wrong somehow. I said that I do, but it's for close friends and family only, hoping she would take the hint. She asked for my number, or if I had a Snapchat. I have both of those things, but yet, no. I didn't want to give it out to this random woman. I listed the makeup I wanted to get, and made my way to the register. I put them down on the counter, and before I paid for them, the woman dropped a heap of cash and told me it was her treat. I don't like when people buy me things normally. Family and friends, I hate even more when people are pushy, and I moved her money back towards her. I told her to stop following me, leave me the fuck alone, and that I wasn't interested. The cashier asked if there was a problem, and I told her, repeating what I said earlier. That was enough for the woman who had been following me to leave me alone. She took her money and left the store. I decided to do some research, and some people were telling their stories on YouTube. They said similar things, approaching people about being a model and not taking no for an answer. I wonder what she would have tried to pull if she managed to buy the makeup for me. From what I read, you pay a very, very heavy price for someone who does something for you, and you would rack up a debt that would need to be paid. So I thought I'd share my story as well. And I seriously hope you listen. Look after yourself. Be open, I suppose, but be guarded. Thank you so much for listening to these stories. If you enjoyed Somber Reads' contribution, check him out and subscribe. Gotta show the tree man some love and branch out. This video was made with the support of my incredible channel members, patrons, and top tippers. All support is greatly appreciated. Check out my merch on my Throne account. Like, comment, and subscribe for more content. Stay safe, my little spooklings. And remember, I'll be watching you.